Hello, welcome to Breakfast Central on the penultimate day before Friday.
Unbelievable.
Yes, we're buzzing, we're happy, as always. Welcome to Breakfast Central, where we bring you the latest news, information, and insightful analysis on the biggest stories in Nigeria and sometimes outside Nigeria. I am Benga Barrow. Welcome to the program.
It's been long ahead English like penultimate. It sounds like a lot of English, right?
You know, once in a while, I have these words I try to use every time. If you recall, on this program a few weeks ago, the buzzword was anomaly. So my word for this week, I had a guest use it yesterday and I've been inspired. He used shenanigans, but I've been looking for the context to use it. But the context doesn't seem to come, and I can't use it just anyhow.
I can use this for
permit me to say that, Joe, I love your shenanigans shoes this morning. I love the kind of shenanigans you're coming up with.
No. You are the one that will attach shenanigans to Benga and his shenanigans. Anyway.
But I'm the one that wants to use it, man. Good morning and welcome to my shenanigans. Okay, all right. Yeah.
All right, welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us this morning. For the next 3 hours, we're exploring conversations in the political scene, but also involving you as a part of the show by taking your phone calls when we review the papers, and also taking your comments. We're streaming live as we do every day, so head to YouTube, News Central Live, drop your comments there. And as usual, if you have to leave the house, make sure you're taking News Central with you on your mobile devices. I am Olive Emodi, and you're welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. I'm Joe Hansen. Thank you for joining us. It feels good to be back on a day that definitely, like Benga said, is going to lead us to the weekend. Are we excited? Well, not really, because we'd love to stay, if possible.
Speak for yourself and for Benga.
Yes, I mean, I'm not excited because of some of the terrible news we're getting, and it happens all the time. And it seems we're not learning any lessons. Kidnappings and tankers overturning and killing people. It's crazy. The death toll has increased to 45, by the way, for the tanker.
That's very sad. So this morning, while we're here, we are telling everyone, welcome to a brand new day. Somebody somewhere mourning.
Yeah, or in the hospital.
Someone is lying down on the bed now.
It's really sad. About that. Very sad. And our hearts really go out to all those who've lost their lives. I want to appeal to Nigerians. No matter how, I know the things are a bit rough and are tough, but when there's an explosion, when there's an accident with a tanker that is conveying any form of petrol, gas, whatever it is, please, our next response, especially with petrol, our next response should not be to try to scoop. That happens a lot, but that should not be our next response. I'm just saying that as an aside, because we've had a few conversations about that as well on the show. But anyway, let's get into our wake-up conversations this morning.
Yeah, I think
I look forward to being able to run for office so that when I become governor of my state, I'll appoint Joe as commissioner of...
No.
Culture and tourism.
I will not work.
Why?
Is there an indigene of Delta State? Do you want...
Okay.
Yeah, there
I
will
will
be...
then find a way to make it a federal appointment, Minister of Culture and Tourism.
I will not collect.
You!
I can advise from the back.
You advise.
With my private business.
Minister of Shenanigans.
They should create a portfolio called Minister.
Nightlife. So you go to the disco club.
Yeah, discotheque.
Okay. Our first story. Social media is buzzing because 001 has now found his way into the political space.
Musical 001.
The musical 001. Davido, a.k.a. 30BG President, a.k.a. Omo Baba Olowo, has been appointed as chairman of Osun Sports Trust Fund by his uncle, the governor of Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke, a.k.a. the dancing governor, or do I call him the dancing senator? Yeah. And that's a picture there. And on his X account, Davido put a tweet saying, "Let's get to work, Adeleke, Your Excellency." And of course, they have been, yes, that's the tweet he puts there saying, "Let's get to work, Your Excellency."
I wish that's how he said it.
Well,
let's get to work, Your Excellency. Yo, OBO.
Well, so there have been a buzz of reactions. There are the Davido fans where see no evil, hear no evil. And first of all, I need to mention here that I'm also a Davido fan. I think that Davido is incredibly talented.
What about Whiskey?
Huh?
What about Whiskey?
Don't ask me to choose.
No, I'm not.
I don't want to speak about whiskey.
Yeah, she's a Davido fan. Let's leave
because
it at
She's
that.
a whiskey fan.
Just,
No, why?
She is a
why?
Davido fan.
Davido
That's
is
it.
the subject
End
of the
of
conversation.
business.
And I'm
Just
a
like
Davido
me,
fan.
I'm a Don Moen fan and Panam Persipo, only the make shine here in the air. That's all. Let's move on, please. Let's move on. Let's move on.
I know you're lying.
Let's move on.
Anyway, I'm a huge Davido fan, and what I like about Davido, beyond his talent, is his extraordinary kind heart. You can tell.
Yeah,
and Davido is like that boy next door. He feels very relatable, and because that's who I am, I kind of connect to Davido very easily in that regard.
Yeah, I got
but I can understand.
What do you make of
sentiment.
this appointment?
Exactly. That's what I'm going to. I just need to set that there so that they don't think, oh, this is a hater. I just need to set there that I understand also when we use celebrities and public you use celebrities as public office holders. There are many of them. They move from being actors to being special advisor to the governor on media. They move from being musicians to being special advisor to the governor on entertainment. And I understand that natural segue from entertainment to sports, or being that bridge that binds the two worlds together. And also because they have a public face, so it's assumed that in that position you're able to make a lot of influence. People will listen to you, which is the truth. However, this is a very sensitive one. It's sensitive because the governor is his uncle, and it's very easy to interpret that as, oh, it's a family issue.
Cronyism.
So I think that I'm not saying they shouldn't have, it may not, I can understand the sentiment of those who would think it probably wasn't a good idea for this to happen, because it's a family thing. And in Nigeria, we already struggle we deal with nepotism on a very large scale, where you're thinking people get favors, they curry favors based on religious affiliation, based on financial affiliation, status, family, and not necessarily merit. So in this case, and I'm not saying Davido doesn't merit that, it would have been great if if his uncle wasn't the governor.
Okay,
he wouldn't have cast aspersions on that appointment. And I saw a tweet, someone said, government of the Adelekes for the Adelekes by the Adelekes. I'm like, okay. I can see where they're coming from. I can see it.
I don't see where they're coming from. They're coming from their house. Like I said earlier, and I set the record straight, so people won't think that, oh, he's supporting Davido because he's a Davido fan. Once again, please, I want the camera on me, director. I am a Don Moen fan. Okay, I haven't said that. Let's get straight to the nitty-gritty. Sports Fund, chairman of the Osun State Sports, let's get it right. Trust Fund. Okay, this is not an active appointment in the sense of, he's going to sit in an office or he's the chairman of Osun State Sports Commission. It's a sports fund. They're trying to raise money, and who better to use as a chairman? I mean, the fact that the governor is his uncle doesn't diminish his star power, and it doesn't reduce his Osunness in any way. He's still a citizen and indigene of Osun State, and he has that star power. This is a sports trust fund. It's meant to raise money to help renovate, build sporting facilities in Osun State, upgrade existing.
So at the end of the day, just to quickly mention, right? Again, I see where you're coming from, and I can completely understand that. I can completely understand the influence, but he could have still done that without having to give him, because
he's the biggest star.
I agree.
In Osun State.
It's not even in dispute.
So he can, do you know how much, just a few phone calls to his friends, and they'll raise so much money. So it's a win-win situation for anyone. I don't see, if he was appointed as Osun State chairman of the Sports Commission, you could argue and say, oh, he doesn't have a sporting background. What does he know?
No,
he'll be too busy. He'll be too
thoughts.
busy with his music business. But this is a sports trust fund. It's to raise money. So I don't see any conflict.
And I think he's going to do an excellent job. I'm just saying I can understand the sentiment of those who
might
feel
think
some type of way, especially because, well, in such sensitive times where people are easily offended, angry, hungry, so anything to latch onto something that will make them feel some type of way. I mean, there were reports of the impacts that Davido has had even on the state behind the scenes. I cannot confirm that. But I'm a fan of Davido. I think he will do excellent as the chairman. But again, even if he wasn't the chairman, I still think he will do excellent. It's his uncle. Uncle Adeleke can call him and say, we are doing a gala.
Uncle Jackson.
Uncle Jackson can call him and say, we are doing a gala. We're trying to raise funds. So, mommy, show up. And he will show up. He's always been. I mean, I like that.
And you know,
family.
his
always
uncle
shows
is
up.
very inclined towards entertainment. He's a
Yes.
singer. He never fails to dance. I remember sitting down with him in the government house a few years ago, and when I got to the question of Your Excellency, people say the way you dance and carry yourself in public is unbecoming of a governor. He said that was, I could see his face light up. He said there's a time to play, there's a time to walk. I love to dance so much. I think that was his favorite part of it. That was his favorite part of the interview.
I guess if we were to give him a soundtrack, the soundtrack would be the song that says, after working, kilo ku, igbadun lokun kamaji. After working, kilo ku.
I'm sorry, I can't relate.
Discotheque.
Nah, it's a Wadley song.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
I'm a
forgot.
John Wayne fan.
Anyway, for me, good
I
point.
think
I think, yeah, no, I was listening. I think you guys, I was just listening so I could learn
From great minds.
So
Thank you for acknowledging my great mind.
When great minds are talking, you listen.
And
You
you draw
listen
knowledge.
and you draw knowledge. And
Hello,
you,
draw
and you
soup.
jot things. And you jot things. Mega shut up. And you jot things down. You understand? But I think you're right. I think the goal is for the Osogbo Township Stadium. They want to convert the Osogbo Township Stadium, it's a mouthful though, to become Olympic standard. So they've started breaking down some parts of the stadium.
Nice.
And they want to build it to become an Olympic international standard. And don't forget that the current Senate President Akpabio had done a similar thing, you know, in the Kwara State, where he had built a world-class stadium, which still remains up until today. So
The nest of champions.
Osogbo is looking to be like that same stadium.
And maybe
but
we
even
can
far
have
better.
Super Eagles games in Osogbo.
So they set up a trust
That's great.
fund. The deputy governor, Adewusi, had said, okay, let them look for someone. So the commissioner of sports, where else would you go to? You go to Davido.
Of course. Number
Don't
one.
forget too that the same Davido had created a buzz on social media when he was raising funds to
For
help the
his-
orphanage.
For his birthday.
For his
Instead of
birthday.
him to use it for himself, he got all this money.
Oh, yes.
And you know
he
how
gave it to
much
the-
he
he's
got
a-
for-
he's a
just from his
philanthropic
star
person.
power.
38 hours. So he has star power. I agree with you guys. Star power is very strong. So who would you rather pick to head the Sports Trust Fund and rake in millions that you're looking for to build
In
that
different
stadium?
currencies.
Now, don't forget
He's
that
got
the
friends
same
all over the
governor
world.
is struggling in his local government area where
To pay
they have been
salaries.
denied their
allocations.
allocations. So if he decides to use the state coffers money to build the stadium, they will come for him. So he's smart. He sets up a trust fund, gets his family member, Davido, to head that trust fund where he has the power to pool funds. All he needs to do is do a lot of, you know, crowdfunding and so on. And people will say, oh, it's because it's Davido and it's because of the state. So
What
he
I'm
stands
saying
in as
is-
a
It's a
shop.
noble cause,
So it's a noble
It is,
cause.
it
They
is
will-
a
they will
noble
come
cause.
in.
It is a noble cause.
They also
and-
want to do concerts at that stadium. That's the future plan. So they also want to have concerts. Will it work? The answer is well, yes. We've seen celebrities
Oh, no, I'm sure it will.
put their hands into politics in quotes. Not, but anyway. Aside from RMD, who was commissioner for tourism and what culture in Rivers State.
D1, the
Okay,
radio.
Bakassi. Well, you have celebrities who have taken the mantle to become, you know.
And
commissioners and so on.
just to mention, before we take what Nigerians are saying,
Yeah.
that I know you mentioned RMD. Please, I need to say this. I need to give a special shout out to RMD. Please, can you come on me? Thank you so much. You mentioned RMD, Commissioner of Culture and Tourism. When
2009, yeah.
2011, anyway, yes, up until 2011 or thereabout. When RMD was Commissioner of Culture and Tourism, there was a project he did in Delta State that they had young people come together. It was a reality show, kind of like what the Big Brother is doing now. But then we had active trainings. It was
You were part of it.
Delta Talent. I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you.
I
Do
think you have.
You have. Okay.
You know, we go way back.
It's true. You know,
Yeah.
before way back. You are new. You are still new, but you try. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Delta Talent Quest was organized. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But Delta Talent Quest was a project he did then to empower young people. I literally got pushed into the competition by my sister. And in 2011, I won a brand new car and 1 million naira. And that changed the trajectory of my life. And that made me see that I actually could have a career in the media industry.
Wow.
So I think that set me on the path that I am today. Wow. And in a way, it's like ripple effect that has led me to here. So
Please take
shout
it. You
out
don't
to
win the brand new car now.
no,
The
not
1
now.
million now.
You see, so
But that 1 million then is like.
the money not to get
Because what will
on.
happen
It's
now,
like-
you receive
it's
messages,
a lot of money
"Auntie,"
now.
Before you know there's auntie good money, no.
Exactly, just to mention.
We
I'm
say
just
let's
saying
greet
that.
you.
I'm just saying that to honor one Richard Mofeda
His
Major,
vision.
then
And the
Uncle
impact on
R&B,
your
my
life.
Ose, and the impact on my life, and to mention that we don't realize when people go into office. I hope that they see how that has changed the course of my life. And I hope that people can see when they go into office that you wield so much power, so much influence, and you literally can chart the part of the number of people's lives. Selah.
Let's see what Nigerians are saying very quickly, reacting to Davido's appointment. Yeah.
Davido lights is in the studio.
Which way spot Davido?
Why? Which spot Davido they play?
Why? Which spot
comprehension. People really don't understand.
This one doesn't understand.
Chairman of the Sports Fund.
No, I think we've broken it down already, explaining to them. I Occupy Nigeria says at least Davido gets track record way clear. Cultural impact, youth mobilization, brand export. No be square peg inside round hole. For once, it'll be bad decision that cruise, but if it work, it not be saying no if it work.
I don't think it's cruise.
It will work. It will work. That's the truth. Davido as chairman of a sports trust fund is wild. Man doesn't even look like he's jogged since. No, it has nothing to do with.
So when Sepp Blatter was president of FIFA, did he look like he plays football?
Very good. A very good way to explain that. And maybe Commissioner for Arts and Culture would have made more sense, but this shows how politics often values fame over fitness or experience. Sports development needs professionals, not popularity contests. I think you guys are, I think we've broken it down already, so there's no need to explain anymore. It's a sports trust fund.
Again. Okay, let's
Sports trust fund. Yes, while you might want to put a sports person, anyway, turning public liability to family business, is there no other person qualified for the post? The question is, will the other person be able to pool the amounts that you need?
Well, you know, he didn't necessarily
and then what's public liability in the context of what we're talking about?
We mentioned it already. I mean, you're building something for the state. You don't want to take from the government coffer, so you set up a trust fund. Lagos State had a security trust fund some years ago by Fashola, where he set it up in the banks. I don't know if you remember that big glass, that box where you go to banks. You would either drop 10 naira, 5 naira. It was a security trust fund. It was used to secure the state. And it's still going on. It's still what they used to fund the IRS. And before you know it, Lagos State became at least to a certain degree very secure.
Just recently. We were there to cover it.
Anyway, that's what we're going to take on that story.
I've noticed a trend that they think is very fashionable to critique everything, even if it's obvious that, you know, this is not a bad decision. I'm not saying you shouldn't, we should all agree.
Let's flip the script. So while I'm saying I understand and I agree with your position that Davido will bring in the star power that will be needed to transform Osun in that area and bring in funds. But he could have still done that as an Osun indigene, as the nephew of Governor Adeleke. So I understand the sentiment of these people who say what they say.
But when they say next Bobrisky for Minister of Gender Affairs and Portable for Minister of Youth and Sports, in that tweet, that's taking it too far.
No. Those ones, we're just taking their reactions. Doesn't mean we don't endorse those tweets, right? We're just taking their reactions. I'm saying it's the same way people would react if they said the same thing, that Minister of Trust Fund for Youth or whatever. I mean, when the president's son gets an appointment, is the same reaction. So Nigerians frown at the idea of
we're very sensitive
of having family members.
So even though you have
nepotism,
even if you have a good intention, how you go about that good intention also matters. You must also be sensitive to, you know, people's sensitivities.
All right, talking about sensitive, our next story is one that would drive your sensitivity upwards.
In an annoying way.
In an annoying way. But
let's just warn you, happy customer service week.
Yeah, that's what they said. Even though they never brought out a statement to take that back. A video is circulating online showing how a policeman just recently assaulted 2 Nigerians. The reactions are indeed very negative on social media, where the police officers have been called and Nigerians have asked that they should be found and they should actually be dealt with. In other words, they're asking for a response from the Nigerian police force. But we're going to show you the video. And we just want to warn you that it could be in any way, you know, it could affect your mood or so on. But just take a look when we come
Viewer
back.
discretion.
Yes, viewer discretion is advised in terms of what it could do to your mood. But take a look.
Jesus, this is not nice, though. 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 It's not nice. It's not nice. Why are you slapping him like that? This is not fair. Leave him alone. No, this is not nice. You see this police guy, eh?
These sort of videos coming on, coming at the back of the NSAS memorial, which we did a few days ago. NSAS memorial was on the 20th of October, and the NSAS protest was marking the end to police brutality and advocacy for the end of police brutality. We're far from it. That video, we're not sure what led to that, but regardless of what led to that, that is such an animalistic way for a human being to behave to another human being. When the police that is supposed to be the keeper of our laws, that is taught or should have been taught how to effect an arrest. If you think that a crime, a crime was committed and you were there as the police, there's a way. When I think about the law that I was taught, I say the law that I was taught in university and law school is a far cry
and the reality
from the law that I have seen play out, because this is not how an arrest should be effected. They treat people like they're treating animals. They're stripping them of their constitutional rights.
And their
Our
dignity.
Constitution provides for the right to dignity of human person. And if that right is taken away from the police, then what hope is there for the average Nigerian? What hope is there really?
It's very sad, Olive. Just yesterday, we put out a video of a former France president who was escorted to prison. We see the way he was treated. Let's even forget that he's a president.
It was almost like he was going to receive an award.
Thank you.
Waving people
because
bye-bye.
he had people, and he walked directly into the car. They ushered him and said, please, go into the car, you're going to prison. We've seen other countries where people are arrested. So there are two ways. In America, which the same police officers will refer to, Americans will tell you, okay, fine, please, you're under arrest. Your hands at the back, and they would handcuff you. That's if you have been found wanted or guilty. However, in the case of what we see here, we don't have the true story or the picture. But whatever it is,
And
there
it
was
didn't
an
look like they were
altercation.
resisting arrest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The guy was saying, okay, I heard that voice. The guy said, okay, I should follow you. Okay, I will follow you. And then one of them said, bring your phone. And this phone issue keeps coming up again in between. Why are we always, the PPRO in the past that mentioned, even there are videos on police angels, officers, they are
Senior officers.
saying, don't give anybody your phone. No police officer has the right to collect your phone.
But you know why this keeps happening, Joe? Because the ones who have collected phone in the time past, we just hear that, oh, they will be investigated and nothing is done. If we really treat police misconduct with kids' gloves, if there were strong punitive measures, if these policemen knew that certain actions would risk them losing their jobs, not just being assigned to another area, right? If they knew that
Not just be transferred.
transferred to another district, or I don't know how it's called, I think it's like
Another posting.
another post.
Posted to another state. Or
Thank you very much. If they knew that they stand the potential of losing their jobs, I think they will act differently. A number of these people, you see the way they react and interact, they're not even aware of what the Police Act says. They're not aware of what their laws are. If you start to, and I think the most annoying thing for some of them, is you as a Nigerian knowing you're right and saying to them, no, that's not the true position. They get infuriated. Because why exactly are you upset that someone is filming
the problem
you
is even
if you have nothing to hide?
Olive, look at the young man they dragged. He's talking to them. I don't think there's nothing wrong in saying, okay, and this guy, this particular police officer, this one, who is with the beret, this one.
And a stick. As if he's
the one
guiding
who
cow.
slapped, he's the one who is beating, and so on. Well, we'll wait for the...
I'm sure they can fish them out.
But no, my problem is not
The
that.
problem is not just
fishing them out is not the problem.
That is the problem.
What
It's
next?
appropriate disciplinary measure. But let's take a listen to what Nigerians is saying.
The police officer who slapped that man should be identified and be called to the complaint unit because such act is totally unprofessional under the Police Act 2020, as long as the man wasn't resisting an arrest that wasn't even legal without a warrant. He was willing to go to station. All this police unnecessary harassment needs to be stopped, and we agree with you. Johnson says, I don't think some police officers can stop harassing the citizens. I think National Assembly needs to pass a bill to that effect, that any police officer that molests a citizen be sacked, prosecuted, and jailed for 10 years.
It's almost like it's in the rule book, because we sound like broken records. I can recall we've talked about police brutality so many times on this program, and nothing seems to change. It's like we're talking
Business
to a
as
wall,
usual.
and the PPRO is the same statement.
We are going to investigate. Okay, what happened after
I really
the
like this
investigation?
particular tweet that just came up, and I think that
Anyway, let's take
the
that last
role of the citizens, we have a role to play. If more people had voiced out and approached the police, they wouldn't have taken those guys. But everyone just kept a distance. Next time, the second guy would never speak up for anyone again. And I want us to pause
And I think that's what
talk
happened.
about it. We need to do this more, Joe. And every one of us have been guilty of this. You are driving on the road. You see that they're harassing somebody. Hey, yeah, they don't catch this one. You move on. If more of us started to look out for it, you see the way these Okada men, the camera men look out for each other.
And dispatch riders.
If you mistakenly, let me not even say you, if a bike man runs into you and falls down, before you blink, 20 bike men have surrounded your vehicle. They don't need to know what happened. They don't need to know that the bike man was the one at fault. The fact that they're seeing their colleague has been attacked.
Esprit de corps.
That's the real esprit de corps. And I think we citizens need to do that as well, because there's strength in our numbers. Nobody's saying you should attack the policeman.
No,
don't
that's
attack,
not what we're
don't hit.
We're just talking about
but come there and
accountability.
question them. Let them know. How many phones
about
can they
accountability.
seize? If 20 people gathered them and they're trying to collect this man's phone, and all 20 of them brought out their phones to start filming, and some are going live on Instagram, how many people can they film? How many people can they seize their phones? How many people can they arrest? We all have a role to play in this.
It's really sad, and we've seen what Nigerians are saying, especially there. Another one says, the law didn't say you should beat, I like this, citizens. So if you violate it, the citizens should reply with the same gift. Well, I'm not going to say you should reply. No, we're not asking for violence here. We're just saying that if you beat the citizen, the next thing that can actually happen is that the police should be identified, and then, of course, the law should take its course. Do we have another post very quickly? If not, okay, let's see this one. You don't have any rights to ask an officer questions. Whichever way they choose to carry out those operations, it deserves the arrest.
What is this
Tega,
one?
I think you need to go and read again. You have every right, because the truth is, if a police officer comes to you and says they need to see your mobile device, you have the right to ask them, where's the warrant to check your mobile device?
No, so my own is...
Tega, you need to understand...
Which one is
anyway.
You don't have right to ask an officer questions, whichever way they choose to carry out those operations.
Whichever way. No, let's leave Tega. Maybe Tega is just a bot. It's a bot.
Obviously
it's
a
not
bot.
a human.
So at the end of the day, what we're saying is that there needs to be accountability. The police works to protect the lives, the rights, and the rights of citizens. I think we need to take this one.
Okay.
The PPRO, Commissioner of Police FCT, says the Commissioner of Police FCT strongly condemns such acts of unprofessionalism. All officers depicted in the video have been identified and summoned to the Command HQ for questioning. The complainants are also invited to the Command HQ to give their statement to aid the investigation process. And then she puts her number and says,
we're going to call her.
My own issue
No, we will call her. So producers, please take notes. Let me put it out there.
Actually, we need to...
Sorry for breaking...
our producers, we need to call and follow up.
We'll give this... we'll give the PPRO a call. I mean, I know she's ready to do her job. I can see how excited she is. She's always out there online. Well done, SP Josephine. I see the spirit and zeal in which you put in, and I know that you're going to ensure that you put out your best foot forward. All right.
On YouTube, Ochodi says they become demons when they put on that uniform to fear. I understand your concern. Honestly, we need to do better. Police should be our friend. So when they say police is your friend.
And they said Happy Customer Service Week. Police put out Happy Customer Service Week. Is this...
Anyway, let's now head to our top stories and share with you the conversations we're looking at this morning. This morning on Breakfast Central, concerns rise over drafting errors and contradictions in 2025 Criminal Code Bill. Federal government can't disagree on Christian genocide claim. Federal government and CAN, that's Christian Association of Nigeria, Kogi Infrastructure Development, Ayetoro-Gbede elders seek support on road, hospital and security. Sexual, reproductive and health rights. Adolescents in Abuja schools receive empowerment curriculum. We'll review the newspaper front pages. We'll have an analyst here and we'll open the phone lines for you to join in. Stay tuned. The Christian Association of Nigeria recently accused the presidency of misrepresenting its position on alleged killing of Christians in Nigeria, describing a statement released after a recent meeting with presidential aide Daniel Bwala as false, misleading, and insensitive. Khan said the presidency's version of the meeting gave the false impression that the association dismissed claims of a Christian genocide in Nigeria, a position it described as completely untrue and unfair.
But the presidency, in its reaction to Khan, insists there is no Christian genocide. On the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, presidential aide Daniel Bwala contended that the report Khan based its claims of genocide on was outdated. The reports and claims truly outdated, or are there factual incidents that backs these claims? Join us this morning for this discussion is founder of Inter Society, Emeka Umeagbalasi. Yes, good morning to you, Mr. Umeagbalasi, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Good morning. Thank you for correctly pronouncing my surname.
You're welcome. Now let's get straight into it. Is there currently a genocide against Christians living in Nigeria?
I didn't get you.
Is there a genocide against Christians in Nigeria, or is the Christian Association of Nigeria exaggerating?
Well, your question borders, touches the national legal framework, regional framework, and international framework. Good thing, there is no confusion amongst the international law drafters over the meaning or definition of genocide. The definition of genocide is, there is no confusion in terms of definition of genocide, which is even why Nigeria is a state party to United Nations Convention Against Genocide of 1948. So there is no confusion, there is no division in terms of defining a genocide. So within the context of the international law, including the Geneva Conventions of 1949 and the protocols of 77, including the the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court of 1998, which Nigeria signed and ratified in 2001, September to be precise, and also the United Nations Convention Against Genocide. So if you look at the genocide, definition of genocide and the elements of genocide, and they situate them to the present, the subject matter, then of course Christian Association of Nigeria is not far from the truth.
All right. You said the Christian Association of Nigeria is not far from the truth, and you've given data, you've backed it up by certain definitions and data. You've tracked violence across Nigeria for years. But let's go back to why you think the presidency is taking a different position from what the Christian Association of Nigeria is saying rather.
What? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said you've just said now that the Christian Association of Nigeria is not far from the truth.
I got that.
Okay, why is the presidency taking a different position from the Christian Association of Nigeria?
You are talking about a state actor reaction. The circumstances like this, in circumstances like this, you have state actors and non-state actors position. And they are talking about the presidency with incumbency. And you're also talking about Nigeria. Nigeria setting, governance setting, where the incumbents or the state actors hardly admit, where state actors have always graduated from the school of incorrigibility and the serial deniers. So we shouldn't be surprised that the presidency said, so are you expecting the presidency to say, yes, there is Christian genocide in Nigeria? Yes, there is religious persecution ongoing in Nigeria. Of course, going by the precedent and over the years, the current presidency is not expected to take a different position.
Okay.
Now, Mr.
Yeah, go on, Benga.
Yes, I wanted to follow up with that. Mr. Masad Boulos, the special advisor to President Donald Trump on Middle East and Africa, did say recently that more Muslims have been killed in Nigeria than Christians. And if you look at the trajectory of Boko Haram and the type of attacks they've been carrying out in the northeast, that has been the theater of this operations for years. They go around bombing mosques. Several mosques have been targets of their terrorism. Do we really, can we by that same logic say that there's a Muslim genocide in Nigeria, or why the need to separate this? We have a problem with insecurity in Nigeria. So while we add in religious colorations to it, because if you go by it, there's also been a disproportionate amount of Muslims that have been killed in this terrorist attacks. And this terrorist, the true definition of terrorism, they just want to cause maximum attack, and they don't care if you're man, woman, children, or whatever religion you practice.
Have you landed? Can I go on?
Go
Yes,
ahead,
please.
Okay. My brothers and sisters, the truth of the matter is whoever that says whatever the person will say, the truth of the matter is that we must have to understand one thing. Like I said, the international laws are there. The norms are there. We must have to understand one thing. International freedom of religion is a norm dating back to 303 AD, 13 AD, from there to United Nations. So as we speak, the international freedom of religion is an international norm incorporated into the United Nations by virtue of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. So that is to say that when you talk of international freedom of religion, it is not restricted to Christians. We don't say international freedom of Christian religion. It is international freedom of religion. So if you take a vivid look at that report, you find out that Muslim casualties were also represented. So, I mean, we must have to understand. So if by federal government or by this or by that saying, oh, it's not only Christians that are being killed, Muslims are also being killed. It simply translates and express admission of guilt on the part of federal government, because here the point of contention is international freedom of religion, or the negative part of it, in religious persecution. If you look at the wording of the United States Act, it says International Freedom of Religion Act of 1998 as amended in 1999. If you look at the wording of the United Nations is saying international freedom of religion. If you look at the President Donald Trump address at the just concluded UNGA, he's talking about international freedom of religion and worship. So coming to that, Masad has a son called Joseph, who is married to the daughter of President Donald Trump, and is a Lebanese. So we have the background of the man. So, and again, you look at the assignment. Masad is a Trump envoy for Maghreb and Arab. The Trump administration is yet to appoint a substantive Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. So it is the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs that has a oversight jurisdiction to speak on what is going on in Nigeria. And of course, the man you refer to doesn't have any statistics. And we are statisticians. Anywhere you put us, any state you put us, we are ready to defend our work. This is a work we have carried out over a period of time, including during the time of persecution of Shiite Muslims. Do you understand? Since 2010, and somebody is telling you, what did he show you guys the data he has collected over the years? Of course, it's not his jurisdiction. So I don't want to talk about the...
Yeah, but I mean, the evidence is there. We're journalists. We report this incident. There's ACLED.
Sir?
ACLED, International Crisis Group, all these organizations, they record the bombings and the killings. And as journalists, we've also been reporting the killings in the northeast and different parts of the country in the last few years.
Even the Daniel Bawala you are talking about.
I'm not mentioning names here. I'm just saying, as a matter of fact, that a lot of Nigerian Muslims have been killed. So we can move on with the conversation. It's not a debate. It is a statement of fact.
No, it's not a debate. But I'm saying that I have told you why the man doesn't have what it takes to speak on what is going on in Nigeria. It is not his jurisdiction. I've told you guys.
Okay, but as Nigerians, we're also telling you that it's a matter of fact that Muslims, a huge number of Muslims have been killed too. So why is that not a concern? And it's an indictment on the Nigerian government that its citizens are dying regardless of religion. And that is what I think we should focus on.
Ask a question, and you didn't allow me to exhaust. Even if Muslims are being killed too, which is clearly represented in our report, then what it means is that Nigeria is under religious persecution. Simple. And what have government done to stop it? I told you that the right freedom of religion or worship is not restricted to Christians. It is also enjoyed by traditionalists, Jewish religionists, Muslims. And what is the simple definition? The right of a citizen to practice his or her religion non-violently and peacefully, and under which he or she must be protected by the state, because that right is not given by the state. It is given by God. From the time of the person's creation, which state is under obligation, mandatory obligation to protect, including the sacred place of worship. That's the simple definition. So this one is not issue of debate whether one Masadi this said that or what have you. We are talking about realities on the ground. You just quoted card. Nobody can be more Catholic than Pope in this context, my brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Emeka, I want us to also look at the other aspect as well. Your statistics, where does it show you have the highest number of Christians being killed? There are statements that it's basically on the middle belt. Is that true?
It is not true. Partly true, partly untrue. Our statement is not concentrated on the middle belt. Let me tell you something. Our statistics, by the way, the National Bureau of Statistics, is it not the name?
Yes.
Is it Nigerian Bureau of Statistics or National Bureau of Statistics?
National, NBS. National
Bureau of Statistics. There is a report last year where it said that between 2023 and 2024, it mentioned the specific month, from this month to that month, 614 Nigerians were killed. This is National Bureau of Statistics, so belonging to federal government. And we are here talking about a report that spanned over a period of 16 years, 2009 to October, let me say this October 2025. 125 Christians killed on the ground of their religion on the ground of their religion or for being Christians, and approximately 60,000 non-violent Muslims also killed on the ground of their religion. And the situation where the players, the perpetrators were identified as Muslims, killing Muslims, radical Muslims, killing non-radical Muslims, and the defenseless Christians. And that's the summary of the whole thing. And we are talking here, you have federal, Google it as we speak. The Nigerian government is saying that 614,000 people plus people were killed in 1 year between 2023 and 2024. I'm aware that 3 months times later, somebody wrote an opinion in 3 months times saying that the report is challenging the federal government to clarify more on such bogus figure. And here we are quarreling with the research that was done for a period of over 16 years.
Okay, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz has accused Nigeria, of course, of this mass murder of Christians. He's pushing for the Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025, which will seek to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern and impose sanctions on officials alleged to facilitate violence against Christians. Is this something you think, is this something your organization will support?
There is no big deal in it. There is no big deal in Nigeria. It's not that leaders, if we don't understand this thing, all of us here, including you and I, we are Nigerians. But we must have to understand the politics here. Nigerian leaders are panicking. The sanction we are talking about, we definitely go after Nigerian leaders. And it has nothing to do with ordinary Nigerians. And Nigerian leaders are those who are holding our collective patrimony and what have you in trust for us. So, and the Senator Cruz came up with an idea of introducing a law, a bill. It's still a bill. When it is passed into this thing, it becomes a law, after being assented to by the president. So, what is the man talking about? And let me tell you something. It's just because of you people, some of you think that Inter-Society just came up and they concocted the report. Without knowing that Inter-Society has been there since 2009. We were formed in 2008, and we started this advocacy, compilation, monitoring, tracking, and what have you in 2010, and so on and so forth. So, one thing you people didn't know is that some of these people have been here over the years. Okay, let me give you an example of the team that federal government flew in the other time and wanted them to say something that is outside the truth, only for them to be humiliated, federal government to be disappointed or humiliated at the end of the day. Look at the statement of that man. He said this is the 6th time he's visiting Nigeria. He has funded a lot of humanitarian bodies and what have you in Nigeria. He has monitored, he has trained the team of experts to go around this middle belt and other parts of the country. The International Society for Civil Liberties Organization, for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, is a Southeast-based organization. But our advocacy has taken us to know certain things in the north. For instance, we are aware that there are Christians in the different part of the north where you find Christians, like in Southern Bauchi, Southern Borno, Southern Kogi, parts of Adamawa, Taraba, and so on and so forth, Middle Belt and things like that. Even in Niger State, you have about 4 local government or 5 local government here that where you can find that are predominant Christians. Oraki local government, Paikuro local government, Shirolo local government, and so on and so forth. So these are statisticians. These are the people that have worked on the field over the years. And it is all the data that have been collected over the years, both by Inter-Society, Open Door International, Release International, International Christian Concern, Christian Post, and other. And all these important international religious voices that have been put together to form the aggregate and congregate of all these statistics we are talking about. Now, Senator Cruz is talking about, I thank God you people didn't say Senator Cruz is proposing Nigerian Christian listing. He's proposing Nigerian Religious Freedom Act. That's what he's saying. So, targeted at Nigeria. And also, let me also let you know, if a country is designated, becomes a country of particular concern, courtesy of the United States Department, it doesn't mean that that country will remain there. it is just to compare the country. They do the needful to rise to the occasion. Sudan is a typical example. Sudan was a CPC, in CPC list about some years ago, at a point when the maximum leader was ousted, Omar Hassan el-Bashir, who came to power in 1989 and was ousted in 2019, left. Then there were some level of improvement. Sudan was removed from CPC and put in the watch list. And so now, when Sudanese government started cracking down on Christians, including the recent forceful deportation of 61 Christian women from who have lived in Sudan for more than 30 years, their recent deportation back to Juba. Juba is the capital of South Sudan. Then and so on and so forth. And the almost effort by Janjaweed and what have you to flush out all the Christian community. Sudan was returned.
Okay, Mr. Emeka, if we may come in at this point, you've spoken quite a lot, and one name that keeps popping up in your last submission is Senator Ted Cruz, but we'll get to that. I recall during the administration of Goodluck.
Somebody mentioned I don't need to mention.
Okay, yes. Okay, let's talk about. Let's go back a few years ago during the administration of Goodluck Jonathan, the height of the Boko Haram insurgency. Nigeria seeks to buy some Super Tucano jets from the United States. And it was denied because of its Leahy laws. The Leahy law says if a country has dubious human rights records, then the United States has a responsibility not to sell arms to such a country. Now, Senator Ted Cruz, that is sponsoring this, this bill, that is proposing this bill to make Nigeria a country of concern, is an active supporter, a well-known supporter in every ramification of the state of Israel that has been committing a genocide in Gaza. Don't you see any sense of hypocrisy there? There are also Christians in Gaza. If you did worry about Christians, why is he not concerned about the Christians in Gaza? Please let me land. Please let me land. Why is he not concerned about the Christians in Gaza? He supports the funding of Israel. Israel that the ICC has declared their prime minister as wanted. The International Criminal Court has found him wanted. The world's leading scholars have agreed. The United Nations has agreed that there's a genocide in Gaza, and this has been sponsored by the United States, and they're providing material and financial support for this genocide that is also killing Christians there. So don't you think this is hypocritical coming from Senator Ted Cruz?
No, well, I'm not. You see, we are the civil, inter-society. We try as much as possible to be objective and restrict ourselves to the subject matter. I have been interviewed by dozens of international reporters, local reporters, including those suspected to have been sent to try their luck in establishing the case of disinformation and misinformation from federal government of Nigeria. And we have matched them word to word and what have you. So we are, let me tell you something, during the time, one of them, why I make this reference is that I remember one of them raising the issue of, Gaza, Nigeria is being called out because of the position Nigeria took, and they just concluded on Gaza and what have you. And I told the person, it is not our business. Why it is not our business is that we are responsible and accountable to our work here, which has to do, and what is it? Federal government of Nigeria must internally or externally compelled to address the case of religious persecution, which is ravaging and raging in Nigeria. We also went far to look at the population of Nigeria. We are also good at international comparisons. I'm sorry about that. So we look at the population of Nigeria, 280 million, estimated using UN estimates. We look at the consequences that we follow if Nigeria, with this kind of population, should explode within the context of a religious genocide or violence of which the United Nations call complex humanitarian emergencies. So this is where we are. This is our concern. So of course, you just quoted international law position. Our position, we have also spoken a lot about Israel and the Palestinians. In fact, we have our own research work on Israel and Palestinians. And we use several statistics. I'm aware that Alaska was not originally an American state. Alaska was bought by United States from Russia. I'm aware that California and a lot of states that are today being part of United States originally belonged to Mexico. But they were bought, secured through a deal, a treaty, and so on and so forth. So why don't all these international players across, subject their this thing to logic and critical thinking to be able to fashion out a permanent solution to Israel and Palestine? All this abracadabra will not solve the problem here until the United Nations, rise to occasion and do the needful. So our concern here is not about the cruise. Of course, if at the end of the day, the international community, International Criminal Court, establishes a case of genocide against Netanyahu, of course, Netanyahu will go in. You understand? So, in as much as Israel is trying to assert their sovereignty and what have you, it shouldn't be done in gross violation of international law.
All right, Mr.
You
Meka.
go after the fighting party. Are you there?
Yes, we're there. Just that we're out of time. That's just
leave the civilians alone. If you leave the civilian, if you leave the fighting parties like Hamas and started going after the civilians, then you go in for it at the end of the day.
All right, Mr. Meka, thank you so much. I guess you've made your statements and your points and statistics.
Yes, and I have beaten you now. Okay, go ahead.
I didn't get that.
No. We're not making it an argument, Mr.
No, it was never an argument.
We understand your concerns, and we think that your concerns are valid as well.
We are looking at problem solving a win-win situation. That's the key point of this program.
We look forward to having helpful dialogue and, more importantly, an end to these killings. Thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Are we done?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we're done. Thank you so much. Let's tell you what's coming up next here on the Breakfast Central, News Central.
This Criminal Code Amendment Bill 2025 has passed its first reading, but it's not the punishments that have tongues wagging. It's the language. Words matter. And in this bill, some say they wound more than they protect.
Well, the bill proposes life imprisonment for defiling minors, a move hailed by many. But critics argue that the wording of key provisions is vague, archaic, and dangerously open to abuse. But the drafting raises real problems that could hurt women, girls, and even enforcement, as the section raises penalties for anyone who unlawfully supplies anything to procure the miscarriage of a woman. Critics argue that the wording of key provisions is vague as well. Anyway, joining us for this discussion are the Executive Director, DNF Survivor Support Center, Dorothy Njemanze joins us, and we also have a lawyer and civil rights activist, Dr. Abiola Akiyode-Afolabi, who also joins us this morning for this conversation. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having us.
Very interesting conversation that we're about to have. First of all, I'd like to get your reactions to when you heard the news. What was your take? I'll start with you, Miss Dorothy.
Okay, I would say my reaction straight up is that lives of human beings are not being taken as seriously as should yet again. The language, in fact, the language in itself is traumatizing. There seems to be a lot of focus again on the perpetrators, and then it gives me this sense of it's another effort to score political goals. You know, that's what it gives me. That's what it gives me. And why do I say so? I would think that if there's anything being done to any law, it should speak to the gaps that the previous one had. And I don't see anything much by way of provisions for the victims, of whatever the situations are. I don't see any practical commitments that any government, ministry, department, or agency is supposed to have, and so it just keeps everything vague and still leaves the burden of bearing the access to justice cost on survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, as far as I'm concerned, on the victims. And so I think that's a very, very critical gap that I'm very worried about. And if that is not addressed, what is proposed will at best add to the increasing statistics of the rising statistics of femicide, from what there is. That's pretty much it. I'm very worried about it, and I'm very worried that it's, from what it looks like, from what it sounds like, and what it looks like, it's just going to end up costing more lives. That's more avoidable deaths.
Dr. CIoD Afolabi, do you share same worry?
Yes, I do. But however, I want to just start by saying that when I saw the headlines, particularly when it has to do with defilement and the fact that life imprisonment is being proposed, well, I thought that we were gradually getting there because, of course, defilement of children has been a major issue for people who are working in this area. I would say that there are several issues in the bill, just as Dorothy said, that are of great concern. And so looking at the Criminal Act itself and see what it's following, this is an act that came to being in the early 1916, and so following the British colonial model. So one would think that if there is an attempt to amend that act in 2025, it should be able to come in concomitant with what we would expect to see as best practice in 2025. I must say that there are some areas that, from my own legal point of view, are areas which are a welcome shift, and I will give you an example. For example, decriminalizing attempted suicide. All of us know how the situation in the country is, the question of mental health and a whole lot of other things affecting people. So that's, for example, it's one area that I feel it's commendable in whatever they have done. But however, if you take a look at every other thing, particularly when it has to do with the issue of supplying drugs, instruments for abortion, it's very unclear. Just as she said, its language is archaic, it's not clear, and it's not a language that we would expect a good legislative drafting to have in 2025, amongst other things that are in the bill that one needs to speak about.
Okay, before we get into the next question, we want a very quick break. We'll come back and then we'll proceed to the next question. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. We're still looking at concerns over the draft of Criminal Code Amendment Bill 2025. And we have two distinguished ladies joining us for this conversation. We have the Executive Director, DNF Survivors Support Center, Dorothy Njemanze, and lawyer, civil rights activist, Dr. Biola CIoD Afolabi. Right before the break, we had talked about what your reactions were when you heard about this. But let me come back to you, Dorothy Njemanze. Let's look at the language of this bill, how it legally sounds. Do you think that this language being used in terms of it being vague, do you think it would have a lot of force when it comes to applying what definitely will be the result of anyone who carries out this act? Do you think it will actually hold water, rather, or you think it's just there?
Of course, I mean, something like miscarriage, abortion and miscarriage are one and the same thing. And the use of the word miscarriage, in the bill, miscarriages occur naturally with so many people, and they're triggered by a lot of factors for so many individuals. So one would wonder how anybody in 2025 with a lot of artificial intelligence amongst other things that are available would come and use the word miscarriage, mischievously as far as I'm concerned. Different things naturally trigger miscarriage occurrences. And so it sounds more to me like there has been some kind of an effort at stigmatizing miscarriage. So what it sounds in practical terms to me would be that women are advised to ensure that pregnancies go through term, at all costs. That's how it feels to me. And if it feels that way to me, imagine the numerous women, who need to bear pregnancies. Imagine the numerous children who are bearing pregnancies, amongst other things. What are the interpretations? How does this things act out in the grander scheme of things? And then on grounds of hypocrisy, a lot of people have put themselves up as enforcers of a lot of harmful normative practices to promote all these ideas. First of all, the misleading terminologies are going to further empower these people to further vilify and endanger the lives of women and girls at risk. I would have expected with the very high rates of child sexual predation, the lack of clarity. So Dr. Viola earlier on had referenced being happy to see that now people are talking about life imprisonment. I mean, guided by the provisions of the Child Rights Act and even the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, I would want to believe that the basic minimum acceptable would be life imprisonment. I would want to believe that we would not give room for reducing the gravity of any of these basic things. But I foresee empowering, whether it is people practicing faith or cultural issues, or even basic morality police. There's basic morality police abusers, and that's how I see that. I foresee the present wordings of the amendments as empowering of these people to perpetrate more crime. It now takes away a lot from your bodily autonomy. You now seem to need to explain a lot of things that have led to, natural traumatic experiences like miscarriages that you have suffered amongst other things. And I think it is not. I think it is not a right. I don't think it is a fair thing to do. And I think this is an opportunity to revisit the language, the traumatizing language, and the quite inappropriate language that has been put together in this one. That's very political drafting, and I align with Dr. Abiola on this.
Thank you very much, Njomanze. My next question is for Dr. CIoD Afolabi. But before I ask my question, I want us to take a listen and watch this video.
I propose that it should be 20 years and underage. Because I've seen cases of boys and girls under 10 years old, 5 years old, defined by adults.
You have proposed that for minors, defilement should carry 20 years. Any seconder?
Yes, sir.
Yes. A more severe one? There's a motion. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion, ably moved by Senator Adam Oshomba.
That for minors.
For minors. That the penalty should be 20 years instead of 10 years.
20 years.
20 years.
Imprisonment.
I so second.
And no option of fine.
No option of fine.
Senator Aledo, you wanted to say something?
I wanted to propose a more stiffer punishment for defilement. Life imprisonment. Because in other climes, actually it's life imprisonment. In fact, capital punishment. Particularly in India, Pakistan, and what have you, it's capital punishment. But here we can reduce it to life imprisonment.
Yeah, DSP. The motion was on 20 years, but the counter motion is on life imprisonment.
Mr. President, we don't have that in our rules. Once there's a motion, somebody seconds, then it will be put to vote. If he fails, then he can raise his own motion. We don't have this. It's alien to our rules.
Okay, but we bear in mind.
It's alien.
We bear in mind that he has a counter motion.
You can do that. But he knows, it's an experienced legislator. He knows at this point, you cannot change this. You should put to vote, defeat it, then you bring forward his own motion.
Okay, those in support that defilement of minors should carry 20 years imprisonment in the act, say aye. Those against say nay. Okay, so that is defeated. Yes, you can now move. Your mic.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting in the chair. My distinguished colleagues, I want to propose that the punishment for defilement is, for minor, is life imprisonment.
So in this case, it doesn't matter whether it is a woman or a man that does the defilement. The most important thing is that if a woman lures a minor to defy, life imprisonment. If a man lures a minor to defy, life imprisonment. Any seconder, Olamileko, because you feel very strongly about this. You are going to make sure that nothing like that happens to Ogun State.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair, Adeola Solomon Olamileko. I rise to second the motion, assembly move.
Dr. CIoD Afolabi, language is very important, and language does matter, because from what we heard from Senate President, he says the defilement would apply to both gender, but in the wordings and the draft, it says the girl child, it was left out. And this questions the motivation, and if they really did, the boy child was left out rather. It questions the motivation behind this bill, and if they did a thorough job and research and wide extensive consultations before they came out with this. Having said that, is there still room for amendments, for civil society input to be taken and feedback so that they can correct the anomalies in this bill?
Well, what they did was also to subject the bill to a committee of judiciary and human rights to take a more further look on the bill. Although from the information from the National Assembly, it appears that the only aspect of the bill that's been stepped down for further consideration is the section 230 that has to do with the penalty for supplying abortion, including drugs or instruments, which is the only area that they had disagreements upon that they felt was fundamental to be stepped down, for further conversation. But we don't think that the issue is closed. It's an issue that we need to, engage them as civil society to ensure that they do what is right. Apparently, with the conversation at the National Assembly on that day, it's obvious that the bill was not properly discussed. And probably also, if we had a few numbers of people that are at the National Assembly, so the expertise that is required, to be able to have a bill that can really be sufficient, for the society was actually lacking. And that's why, from what we're seeing in the bill is talking about defilement of women and girls. And the question about defilement, especially when it has to do with unlawful carnal knowledge, can only happen to a girl under the age of 18. And so if it's above the age, it becomes rape. So there is a lot of contradiction in terms of language, that is used, on the floor of the house with respect to defilement. So while they were trying to make it a more gender-focused section, but you can also see that from there, except because that was also a discussion, so it's possible that they will still go back and, do a final rewrite before, they present it. But as it is, it doesn't speak in that regard. But I want to quickly go on the one that is contentious, which is the Section 230, which deals with increased penalty for supplying abortion, inducing drugs or instruments. I believe that one really deserves, special scrutiny. As we speak, if you look at Section 228, 229, 230 of the Criminal Code Act, the Nigeria already has a highly restrictive abortion law. And this amendment, what it will do is going to further criminalize what is often seen as healthcare, for women who have to, access, safe termination of pregnancy or abortion facilities. And we need to know, because data is very important, 35 million women undergo unsafe abortion. In this year alone, statistics is very clear, and it has resulted to about 22,000 or more, deaths. 97 of such is in places like Nigeria, where there are issues of social, political, and other conditions that affect, the full operation of our healthcare system. So there are political issues, there are social issues, relating, to this. So having a restrictive abortion law or criminalizing abortion has not helped us over the years. People have no information. The state is not responding to issues. There are issues of incest. There are issues of rape, and this law is not dealing with it. So the law needs to come in contact with the current, context. Conversation around abortion is not a moral issue. It is a public health issue. A lot of young teenagers are dying as a result of unsafe abortion. So I feel that, they are stepping down this conversation, allows for civil society to be able to engage with data, to let the parliament know that there is a problem, that is affecting and that is self-abortion is killing so many, young people, and particularly teenagers. And there's a need for government to be responsible enough to decriminalize, and make abortion much more open, for people in Nigeria to be able to have information, to be able to access, in a safe environment. Unsafe abortion has resulted a lot to the death of as many people as possible, and not only in Nigeria, all over the world. So Parliament should take that as an important aspect, it's not a moral issue, it's a public health issue, and it's not all over the world.
Okay, I mean, we can also speak to what the setbacks are in that regard. I hear you when you say it's not a moral issue. There's then the, the faith perspective, which might also be a pushback. But we'll expand this conversation further after this break.
Welcome back. Very important conversation is what we're having here on Breakfast Central. It concerns you watching us now, because we're looking at the bill, the Criminal Code Amendment Bill 2025. And our two guests have been doing justice to the conversation, dissecting it and breaking it down for your benefit and also for the benefit of all who are Nigerians. But let's go back to the bill. My two guests are still here with us. Let's look at the aspect of a very critical aspect in terms of inclusivity. How would you say the bill can be more inclusive? Especially, my colleague did reel out where the boy child was not mentioned. Also, there are instances where you've mentioned the difference, miscarriage, and of course, abortion. And then what is needed? What do you think should be added now so that we can forcefully, whether we like it or not, through the bill, take away any form of pandemic that is bedeviling the existence of either the girl child, the boy child, or the existence of these criminal acts? I'm going to come back to you, Mrs. Dorothy. Can you share with us?
I'm just Dorothy.
Okay, that's fine.
To start with, the issues of defilement and rape, the extent to which they are different. Rape is rape. I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse and adult sexual abuse, and I can speak authoritatively and say rape is rape. I take a cue from how Edo State handles it. It is rape of a minor or rape of an adult, and for what it's worth, trying to make one look like it is more severe than the other is pretty unfair, because we are different individuals and we react differently to different, to different forms of trauma. And so I think that if we recognize that, rape is penetration without consent or sexual inappropriateness without consent, across board, it should be seen as the same thing. Maybe defining minor or not minor would help us put things into better context. But I strongly contest, the language of defilement and all those kind of things. With issues around abductions, I saw things around the guardian of the child, the parents of the child needing to grant express consent. Otherwise, abduction is said to have been taking place, and it's for a girl who is 16 years of age. Children are people under 18 years old. So what happens to the 17-year-old girl? What also happens to the boys? These are critical areas of concern for me with the documents that I have seen. One would have thought that the amount of engagement we have been doing with the legislators on different things, including the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill, amongst other things, would have helped the drafters of this to be more sensitive to the language, to be to have more gender balanced perspectives or gender neutral stances on the crime, so that the focus is on the crime, and the beneficiaries of whatever they're coming up with, would not be discriminated against on grounds of gender, whether they are male or they are female. But I see that as a critical gap that is missing. Again, like I said, with the adoption issue, for instance, in cases where the violators are the parents, and the law is still requesting for express permission to be granted by parents, it means that it's the will of the parent and not in the best interest of the child that the law, that is being recommended is supposed to serve. And that runs contrary to the provisions of the Child's Rights Act. That runs contrary to the ideologies of the Child's Rights Act, in which everything is supposed to be in the best interest of the child. And it's important to remind us that whether we like it or not, critical issues have arisen again. The Child's Rights Act recognizes people who are under 18 years old as children. Nigeria is a secular state. Even religious states, Saudi Arabia and co, have pegged the age of children. What is Nigeria shying away from? I think that the earlier we start seeing medical crisis, public health crisis as public health crisis, and stop excusing them on, with ideas of religion or culture or whatever it is, the better for us. Do we have progressive leaders of faith and culture who have been clear on, or misinterpretations of ideologies or where religions stand? Yes. To what extent are the legislators aligning themselves with progressive stances in line with the current day realities? There's a huge gap that is noticed there, in the language of what is proposed to be an amendment or an improvement of the existing criminal code. And
Dorothy, I think
at best,
I think you've raised a very critical, very, very critical conversation just now. And your question, are we shying away from pegging what a child's age really is? If we're putting it at 18, and then other parts of the world, they do have that. Maybe because of our, in quotes, maybe there's some religious connotations and so on that may one way or the other affect. And whether we like it or not, this point you raised now, it's also going to affect this same criminal code that we're looking at in the future, one way or the other. Dr. Abiola, I don't know if you have a look, if you have a different view on this as well. Would you like to share?
Well, I think we can't have two different laws in country. The age of a child is children up to the age of 18. So the law can't be talking about 16-year-old living 17, and 18 years old. Now, one of the things that I think, just to also further buttress the point that my colleague Dorothy made, the bill seems to be retaining very paternalistic and archaic language. So the question of inclusion is very important. While we have talked about the need to include the boy child, the language itself must be inclusive. You know, trying to increase the number of years for sentencing is not the only way, you know, to address issues that has to do with defilement. Having a bill that is speaking at this time, like speaking in the Victorian era, is not acceptable. You know, it's talking about female sexuality and autonomy. If you look at all the sections that, you know, the bill is dealing with, it's dealing with more about women. And it's talking about women and girls in a way that is saying as if they lack agency and that they are like perpetual objects, you know, using the word like detained, you know, and parental consent, you know, and a whole lot of other things. All these issues have been issues that have affected, you know, the rights and autonomy of either the girl child or the woman at a point in time. For example, at a point in time, the question of consent for child marriage, you know, was discussed. So bringing those issues of parental consent and all that issue back, you know, to a large extent, it's returning the discussion to seeing girls, you know, women as properties, you know, that are being owned, that decisions can be made, you know, on their behalf. And we know that some of those decisions are based on cultural or religious context. So, if a deeper look at the law, you know, does not really provide the kind of, you know, best practice that you would expect, you know, that the law you will be able to respond to. And if you look at the other section, there's a particular section talking about possession of human head, talking about juju and all of that. You know, you'll find it very difficult, you know, to see if we're discussing the law at this level, talking about brothels, you know, talking about so many things, the wordings of that law that are not, you know, in compliance with what, you know, the situation is. So it looks to me like the legislatures are not in touch with, you know, the current reality, you know, in the society. So generally, it's important to, you know, look at every bit of what is being suggested. The emphasis on 5 to 10 years, 2 to 3 years or whatever, you know, it's not, that is not the emphasis. We need to have a law that is victim-centered. So the approach of making the law that has to do with dignity of people, that has to do with the bodily autonomy and integrity of people, it must be centered around, you know, the people. And I realize also that on that day, I think the only woman who was in the parliament who wanted to raise issues around the issue of abortion stood up, and she was not even allowed, you know, to make that comment. So it's really a whole it's an issue of concern about who is also making the law, what is the understanding, you know, of the people making the law. Because if you don't sit where women are sitting currently in the country, it might be very difficult for you to be able to understand, you know, the challenge that women face. So these laws are not, you know, inclusive. We need to reopen it. We need to have a more nuanced discussion. And people are asking, was there a public hearing? You know, how did they pass through those processes without, you know, getting the contribution of people, you know, to be able to make the law nuanced and much more related to the realities of today?
Thank you so much. I'd like to bring Dorothy back into the conversation. Now, Nigeria's criminal justice framework often prioritizes punishment over prevention. If you could rewrite this amendment with 3 priorities, what would you include? What priorities would you include to make it truly protective and survivor-centered?
Okay, the first one is recognizing that children are emotional beings with human rights, and to that extent, you know, not disregarding any group of children, including especially the 17-year-olds, the 16-year-olds, the 15-year-olds. They are still children. They cannot vote and they cannot be voted for. The well-being and welfare of children. Now, so a lot of daily, I see children whose parents are their abusers. I see children whose parents are the primary enablers of their abusers, amongst other things. And when people come up with these religious and traditional context to things, I'm also aware that the holy books make consent mandatory. And so in what way is a child who legally cannot consent to sexual activity able to consent to marriage, which would include sexual activity? I think these are critical areas that the law needs to be clear on its stand, because the quality of the law today depends on how much faith the children of today will have in the Nigeria, they are going into. And then finally, victim-centeredness is something that we cannot overemphasize. Who cares for the medical bills? Sexual and gender-based violence recognized by the Health Act as an emergency, and the federal hospitals of primary healthcare centers treat sexual and gender-based violence, looking for the to remove vagaries. So when you say unlawful, what does unlawful amount to? I think these things should be explicitly defined. What it sounds to me in this moment, it's like, Boys Club came together to determine again the best way to perceive and monitor the bodies of women and children. That's what it sounds to me. And I know that if we got a girls' club together to determine, for instance, that vasectomy is something that should be considered for all men, especially considering the rise of sexual and gender-based violence and empirical statistics, the issue of autonomy will come in, the issue of agency will come in. And so it speaks again to, you cannot plait my hair or shave my hair in my absence. To what extent are those of us who have these lived realities being considered, or are lived realities or inputs from us being considered? As a survivor of sexual and gender-based violence, I recognize that a lot of people who are interfacing with this thing are giving us these tokenist gestures because they think they know what is good for us. They are not speaking to us about our lived realities and their perceptions to be able to create a balance. So I would say that that balance is very, very much needed, because already, as a survivor of sexual and gender-based violence, I can authoritatively tell you that the wordings of these documents that we have cited so far are very triggering, very traumatizing, and nothing short of enabling the femicide statistics to rise.
Well said, Dorothy Njamanze, and also the conversation is one that I believe will keep going. Hopefully, like we always say here, when those at the top listen to the voices, they will be able to act immediately, especially for the benefit of what we've discussed so far. I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Biola Akiyode-Ofalabi, for joining us as well as Dorothy Njamanze for speaking with us on this issue. We look forward to have you, ladies, once again, so that we can look at how far we've come and how far we're going, especially on issues bordering on such matters. Thank you so much.
And hopefully the authorities will take the feedback and improve on the draft when they go into the committee stage. Thank you so much for your time once again.
Thank you. All right, away from that, let's tell you that the Planned Parenthood Federation of Nigeria has rolled out comprehensive life skills and health education models for students in intervention schools selected across the Federal Capital Territory, that is in Abuja. This, they say, is part of efforts to equip young people with the knowledge and skills needed to make informed health choices from a young age in the areas bordering on their sexual, reproductive, and health rights. News Central's Aishat Saliu reports.
Adolescents in schools are said to be often faced with menstrual health and hygiene challenges, choices bordering on teenage pregnancy, limited access to youth-friendly health services, and lack of comprehensive sexuality education. These experts say many of them are prone to making wrong decisions that can impact their well-being, education, and future. But there are calls to extend and prioritize reproductive health care services through the adoption of comprehensive life skills and health education into school curriculums.
Unwanted pregnancy, maternal mortality, which is poor in this country. In fact, we are ranging almost 3 or 4 from below, and it's unacceptable. So whether we like it or not, sex is a natural thing, and that we must do anything possible to make sure that, yes, these things are done in a proper way. And that's why we have taken it to secondary school and also in the university to make sure that, yes, they are aware of their body and they are aware how to communicate, how to give consent to whatever method they can pick.
With the benefits of the initiative outlined for adolescents, experts suggest a multifaceted effort to promote health and reduce harmful practices among young people.
In PPFN, they taught us how to take care of our body when menstruating, and then some misinformations about menstruation, like painful menstruation will end if you have sex. They told us it's wrong, and many other things which I personally believed before. But with PPFN, and I realized that no, these are wrong. These are misconceptions.
Government should implement should add it to our curriculum, because if they add it to our curriculum, they should employ other teachers to teach the students, both male and female.
I will encourage this sexuality education to begin from home, especially the mother. We are the one that have more time with these children, so we should make them our friend.
By addressing real-life challenges faced by today's youth, the Comprehensive Life Skills and Health Education Program is set to foster a generation that's not only educated but also empowered. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
Residents of Ayetoro-Gbede area of Kogi State have called on the Kogi State government to provide adequate security, including health and road infrastructure. This was as leaders of the community paid a thank you visit to the governor, Ahmed Ododo, at the government house in Lokoja, thanking him for support from the government during the coronation of the traditional ruler, the Olu of Ayetoro-Gbede, Oba Adewomi Ologe I. News Central's Mana Balabrogo reports.
At the government house in Lokoja, elders of Ayetoro-Gbede community thanked Governor Usman Ododo for honoring their invitation during the recent coronation of their monarch, Oba Adewomi Ologe I. The delegation thanked the governor for his continued support to the community and appealed for the completion of the abandoned 10-kilometer Ayetoro-Gbede road, revival of the community's general hospital, and stronger security presence in the area.
We plead with you, sir, as soon as the state is very buoyant, we appreciate you that you mobilize the contractors to move back to the site. Because of the manga that has been established there, our security is very porous.
We requested for a central palace. We equally requested that they should deploy a medical doctors, because we only have one medical doctor.
In response, Governor Usman Ododo assured the delegation that their requests will be addressed.
On the issue of road network, yes, what stop for tourism? One, rainy season. Two, our ports. But very soon, if I say very soon, very soon, I'm going to instruct Commissioner for Works and Commissioner for Health to call for the assessment.
Meanwhile, the Commissioner for Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs spoke on the worsening insecurity situation in Kogi West area of the state.
So the governor has been doing so much. In fact, today you still see copter roving around also, and a lot of security architecture has been moved to Kogi West.
The governor's assurance appears to have rekindled hope among the visiting delegation, who say the community remains committed to supporting his administration's development drive across the state. In Kogi for News Central, Morno Balagubu.
Very interesting conversation there, especially in that report from Kogi State. There's a lot to be done. The residents have said we need more roads and the roads need to be fixed. And I think it's high time the subnationals start focusing on the dividends of what has been
talking
handed out
about
to them.
roads, I was hoping we were going to have that as one of our wake-up conversations yesterday.
Yeah.
Because the performing governor happened to be stuck.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Edo State.
Okay, Senator
Monday
or
Pueblo. He was stuck in flood, his entire convoy, and he couldn't make his way out. So,
Are you serious?
And they said that road has been in that state since the time of the comrade governor Shomole and of course Obaseki. So hopefully from his lived experience, I'm sure from his lived reality, I'm sure he wouldn't have found yesterday's experience palatable. They'll do something about it.
Let's see. Let's allow our viewers to see the video. Maybe you can take a look at this video and understand what Binga is highlighting and why residents of Edo State are saying, well, if you don't touch us, you don't touch the governor too, aka Akpako. Maybe he would now Akpakonize the road and
do
ensure
something
he
finally.
does something.
Yeah, but he's very
let's
big
see if
on...
we have that video as well so we can show it to the people there.
Oh yes, that's it. Yeah, you can.
That's his convoy,
yes.
and they said he was inside this this black jeep, as we call it. We all call it jeep.
And you know, the worst thing is his aides can't. I mean, if they come down, they'll be inside the water, so they really can't even step down to clear traffic ahead of him. It's not a palatable.
I think this is a
situation.
wake-up call as
it's
well.
It's a wake-up call
for the people of Edo State and for the governor. This was carried out by, I think, Eniola on X, a very concerned Nigerian who also got hold of this footage and then shared. And for us here, it's just to look at the situation of things. If you are a governor of a state, I mean, kudos to the governor of Edo State, whether we like it or not. They've called him Mr. Fix-It because he's ready to fix every single thing on the state. I think it's one thing that he has said he will do ever since he got into power. But that particular road needs to be fixed. It's been a long time coming.
And I'm sure he'll do something about it. I haven't experienced this flooding and being stuck in traffic. Okay, you're watching Breakfast Central. We'll bring you breakfast headlines next, and then we'll continue our conversations. So stay with us. Hello, welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Binga Aborowa. We begin by telling you that the federal government has commiserated with the people of Niger State over the tragic petrol tank explosion that occurred in Essa, Kachat local government area of the state. The government, in a statement signed by the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, on Wednesday said the incident, which left 42 people dead, had once again brought to the fore the devastating human and material consequences of fuel tanker accidents in communities. The government lamented that despite sustained public sensitization and repeated warnings about the dangers of scooping fuel from fallen tankers, some citizens still take such life-threatening risks. And now to legislative matters. The House of Representatives has commenced investigations into alleged non-repatriation of Nigeria's crude oil export proceeds, estimated at over $850 billion between 1996 and 2014. The chairman of the House Ad Hoc Committee on Pre-Shipment Inspection of Exports and Non-Repatriation of Crude Oil Proceeds, Sheyi Shomi, during the inaugural meeting of the committee in Abuja, described the development as a massive revenue leakage, undermining the nation's stability.
By law, all export proceeds must be repatriated within 90 days from the date of shipment and 180 days for non-oil exports.
recent allegations suggest a significant breakdown in compliance by relevant stakeholders. It is alleged that operators in oil and gas industry failed to repatriate an estimated of 40 to 45% of Nigerian crude oil export proceeds, amounting to approximately $850 billion between 1996 to 2014, in clear contravention of the law. Even more worrisome in the disparity among exports earning data reported by government agencies, such as the CBN, the Department of the Petroleum Resources, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics.
The House of Representatives is raising alarm over reports that harmful chemicals are being used to preserve frozen foods in Nigeria, saying that the practice poses serious health risk and could result in a silent health crisis if not urgently addressed. This followed a motion of national importance where lawmakers expressed concerns over the alleged use of toxic substances, including chemicals meant for embalming corpses and preserving frozen foods and other perishable items across the country. Sponsor of the motion, Honorable Chike Okafor, says available reports from health experts and regulatory agencies indicate that these chemicals expose millions of citizens to severe health dangers like cancer and organ failure.
Alarmed that Nigeria is already grappling with challenges related to food security, including poor agricultural practices, inadequate storage facilities, and the impact of climate change, thus threatening the health and well-being of millions of Nigerians. Cognizant that the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, SON, and the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, saddled with the responsibility of ensuring food safety, have been alleged to exhibit complicity and negligence, thereby suggesting critical gaps in the enforcement of food safety standards. The House is hereby invited to mandate the committees on nutrition and food security, committees on NAFDAC, committees on healthcare services and safety standards and regulations to investigate the alleged use of harmful chemicals as preservatives in frozen foods in Nigeria and report within 4 weeks.
Meanwhile, 2 senators from the opposition have officially defected to the ruling All Progressive Congress, citing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic and governance reforms as their motivation. Speaking after leading the lawmakers to meet with President Bola Tinubu, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio explained that the decision of the senators is driven by patriotism and a shared vision to rebuild Nigeria. According to the lawmakers, Senator Smaila Kaila from Bauchi North and Senator Agom Jaribe from Cross River North, the president's transformative economic policies and efforts to improve revenue generation convinced them to join the APC.
Nigeria, who can improve Nigeria, who can put food on the tables of Nigerians. So you have Senator Kaila. He's the senator for representing Bauchi North. And if you know Bauchi North, it involves Azare and other places. So it's a very big senatorial district. And then you also have Senator Jaribe, who represents Cross River State North. And that includes the former Senate President's area, Obudu and Ogoja. And they have since declared on the floor of the 10th Senate that they are now members of the All Progressives Congress. That's why
people are aware of what Mr. President is doing, and they are in full support because the president is really doing well, and I want to come in and support him.
The president is doing very well economically, in the security area, and everywhere. So I think we just want to join this winning team so that we will win together.
We'll now cross over to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where our senior business correspondent is live at the venue of the conference of the Chartered Institute of Directors in Abuja. Today is day 2. Joanna Mustafa, good morning to you. Please, can you bring us up to speed with events where you are? And How did the business side of day one of the conference go?
I mean, as you have pointed out, the Annual Directors Conference 2025 started yesterday, day one. The overarching theme for the whole conference is leading through change. Yesterday it was established that change is a constant. Volatility is looking like something we should get more familiar with, and how leaders should navigate that. It was established that there is the change that or the future that we cannot predict, that is the black swan events. There's a future that we can predict, that we can work with, for example, the evolution of AI and digital and how that should be incorporated into our systems, how you should also protect your systems from them. And there's also the future that you create. We can see the likes of President Trump, how he's shaping the future of America intentionally. That was an example that was cited. So there is the future that you do create, and leaders were encouraged to be proactive in that regard, as well as forecasting. Those were all details that were highlighted yesterday. Change is a constant. Today, the focus is shifting to stakeholder synergy and long-term resilience, I beg your pardon. That is a sub-theme for the third plenary, and the fourth plenary, leadership that lasts. It also has already been highlighted that there needs to be a handshake between the private sector and the government. They cannot work in silos or isolation. They have to come together. And as well, the public sector has a role to play. The private sector has a role to play. Stakeholders should come together so that whatever change may come, everybody is moving in the same direction and at the same pace.
Now, what are expectations for today? And I believe the conference is closing today, if I'm not wrong. What are our expectations?
As I did point out, the focus will be on working out stakeholder synergy for long-term resilience, as well as building leadership that lasts. There will also be moves to consolidate some of the conversations that have been had. There has been emphasis that this shouldn't just be another talk shop where we come together, but there will be moves to see how board members, leaders, CEOs, business leaders can implement some of the things that have been brought forward at this table. And of course, the public sector, the government, there were representatives here at the conference yesterday. They were a part of the conversation, and it's believed that we'll see that handshake between the private sector and the government.
Very much for the updates, Joanna Mustafa, and happy deliberations. Thank you. You're watching Breakfast Central. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, it will be time for us to bring you the newspaper front pages. So stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. The front pages of the newspapers is here, and it's next. You can be part of it by calling the number you'd find on the screen shortly. We do have public affairs analyst Mr. Dotun John joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Join us.
Good to be here again. Good morning.
You and your fine shoe. Welcome to the show.
For those who can't see, Dotun is putting on a fine shoe. Unfortunately, he might be going on with his slippers. He will, not mind.
Why do you always talk about my little vanity?
You are complete now. By the time you stand up, you'll be wearing your shorts and your best working back home.
Good morning. It's good to be
here in the studio, so hopefully she gets to connect with us soon. But then again, let's go straight to the very first paper. And the very first paper we're going to look at is the Nigerian Tribune. That's our first paper for today. The Nigerian Tribune has at the top there, ASU suspends 2-week warning strike, rejects 35% salary increase offer, gives federal government 1-month window to address demands. And I like this because it means that they've listened to the Minister of Education, Minister Lausa, who had told them, give us more time. Let's look at it. So they've given them 1 month.
But is 1 month enough?
Well, we'll find out. IMPI reverses inflation rate projection to 14% from 17% for December. IMPI reverses inflation rate projection to 14% from 17% for December.
So it's not going to be that bad.
It's not going to be that bad.
But it's bad.
It's bad. It simply means that it is there, but it's somehow not too there. I don't even understand that English I just put before you. Anyway, Gold rises by 60% as central banks shift reserves away from US dollar assets. Niger tanker explosion, death toll hits 42. ISWAP threat, Kogi, Ondo move to douse tension. Strategic security measures reinforce surveillance intensified, Kogi says. We are in constant contact with security agencies, Ondo says. Election petition, Senate to shift burden of proof to INEC. We did hear that during the Senate conversation. They said they're going to move the burden of proof to INEC. Being too skinny might kill quicker than obesity.
Okay, no, fat. They say you have health risks. Now you're skinny. Please, can't they pick a struggle?
They say you're too fat. If you're obese, there's a problem. Now they're saying if you're too skinny, there's a problem. But let's go to our in-house analyst for today. Let's look at ISWAP threat. Kogi, Ondo move to douse tension.
Are we doing enough to minimize this increase in violent threats and terrorism that seem to be moving towards the coastal states and the south?
Yes. Once criminality leaves Kwara, traveling south, criminality is in the southwest. Once banditry leaves Kogi, traveling south, banditry is in the southwest. So, and that makes both Kwara and Kogi an essential part of the traveling route. And we must be very, very careful. First, what this has shown is the ability of our security agencies to dictate early. We've talked about intelligence gathering. It's extremely important. In fact, there's nothing that can be done without adequate intelligence gathering. And this, by the DSS, has shown that our security operatives are actually on top of the game. And it's so necessary because what we've seen before now is that when they provide this report, internal rivalry between all the security operatives always prevent them from acting on this intelligence. I have never doubted the capacity of our intelligence gathering organizations about doing their job. But here is the issue. A lot of people have made an economy out of insecurity. And
it's a business.
Yes, it has become a very huge business. Either we want to talk about it or not. That's the reality. But again, I like the fact that they are making it public. It has its advantages and disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is the fact that that can actually cause panic within the community. And this is where the state governments now come in. The Kogi state, the Ondo state government, they must be able to douse the tension within their community. That once we have information as to this attack, the possibility of the attack has reduced by 70%. And unfortunately, again, Friday I talked about this thing. It's quite unfortunate that we are going to talk about it again. The believability gap between the people and their government is still so huge that for you to fight insecurity, you need the active participation of your community members. When your community members do not trust you, it becomes exceedingly difficult, if not practically impossible, for you to make headway in the fight. So the government must make it a primary assignment now, not just to educate the people, but to rally them against criminality. We saw what happened in Kwara, that a leader of the community was complicit in the banditry and the kidnapping that has been happening in his community. So we must point our searchlight to our community, mobilize our people against terror. And the only way we can do this efficiently is for the people themselves to believe that their government is trying to help them. But if we continue to make franchise out of criminality, if we continue to create economy around insecurity, it may take time to do so.
It should be a collective
Yes,
effort.
yes.
Now, quick one. Let's go to the ASU because it's very important. ASU suspends 2-week warning strike, rejects 35% salary increase offer. FG gives FG 1 month window to address demand. I mean, what do you make of this? Is 1 month enough time for the federal government to, put its house together and attend to all their needs? Let's not forget that we have the health sector and other things happening in the economy. And also, I mean, this 35% salary increase, if you ask any worker out there, they will say, it's is quite significant. That why don't they take it and
just
let's move on from there.
Yes.
It shows good faith on the part of the government.
Okay, so the politician is still one of our major issues. I mean the behavior of the politician. For instance, if the politician has tightened his belt, ASU will not compare. In fact, you will not know you are earning less until comparison is done. So ASU will not have anything to compare with. But the reality is that the constitution of your nation allows me to be the president of the nation with an SSC or even a primary school leaving certificate. The constitution of the university forbids me to be a graduate assistant even if I have an HND. Not forgetting the fact that I've also gone to the Polytechnic to spend about 4 or 5 years to get that. So if somebody who is in the university with a master's degree or a PhD now is now looking at the salary of a man who has an SSC, because that's what your nation demands of him to have, to be a member of House of Reps or the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we have created an opportunity for comparison. And as long as it's like driving in traffic, if you are head up in traffic, you can maintain your lane for as long as possible until you see that your neighbor in the other lane starts moving. Until comparison sets in, you don't get to judge yourself or demand of yourself what you're supposed to demand. So the politician is earning so much, and the politician is telling ASU that what I'm giving you is enough. And when ASU now brings the certificate out, because it was the fault, you have forgotten, that was the politician in those days that told ASU members to go to school.
Yes.
Now they have gone to school.
Yes.
Majority of them have made the first class. Now they are in the university teaching. The politician does not have the moral right to now to tell them to tighten their belt. I think
but the politician is also looking at the resources of the country. Can we really afford
I have said it repeatedly that if we are talking about the resources of the country, honestly, the prosperity we have is not in question. The priority of our prosperity is what is leading to poverty.
What we're using the money for.
What we're using the money for is what is leading to poverty. And I said it that the only moral right the politician has to tell every other person that I'm paying you enough is for them to look at, for the politician to look at himself and say, with the reality of what is in my community today, am I justified with what I am earning? But again, it comes back to our leadership recruitment process. The politician will also come back to justify his earning by saying that in the day of election, I spent 2 billion before the people voted for me. So it's a communal crisis, and it's beyond ASU.
Because you look at a country like Switzerland, Japan, Singapore, for example, where there's no widespread poverty, infrastructure is there, people have a high standard of living. And if their lawmakers earn a certain amount of money, you wouldn't flinch and question it. But you look at Nigeria, and they still don't. But you look at Nigeria, there's widespread poverty all around you. We just drive outside now to the next traffic light. You see students, children that should be in classrooms hawking. There's perverse poverty everywhere. A lot of people are finding it hard to live. And then you see politicians moving around in 100 million convoy of SUVs, earning huge amounts of allowances and salaries. So that's where the disconnect is.
It's a problem of, it's a communal problem that emanated from our traditional sense of leadership. Even if you check the normal Nigerian kind of movie in the local setting, you see that the only gated house in the community belongs to the Igwe. So it tells you that the concept of leadership as it is for the man on top to lord over everyone, to live in opulence. Doesn't matter whether the people are living in poverty. And that's why I say that there's the need for a general structural reform. But do you know why that structural reform is a bit difficult? It's because of what we call culture shock. The politician, the expectation of the community is that the politician will build a system that will be bigger than him. The experience of the politician is that he has seen people that have come before him. They have built themselves more powerful than the system. So somebody gets there and is completely confused. What am I going to do? Am I going to follow the path of the experience I've got or the expectation of the community? So year in, year out, we have conversation about ASU. it should not be something that we'll be talking about. You remember when this agreement was made? 2009. 2009, yes, 2009. And up till now, we are still going back and forth. So there must be a need for us to put our nation first. And putting your nation first may mean different things to many people. To us, it may mean that we should just do a bit of, what's it called? We should just shift our ground a bit. To the federal government, it must mean that you are ensuring that you are putting the destinies of the generations that are coming, you are guiding them, you are giving them an opportunity to thrive. Not that a 4-year course at the end of the day will turn to 6 or 7 years. And you know, now, when you check the pages of newspaper, when they are doing recruitment, they say that you are 22 years old. As I was 22, I was almost, as I was 17, I was still roaming the street of my village. Oh. How do I want to graduate at 22 and go and look for a job? These are the realities.
5 years experience. All right, let's move on to another story. You were not here yesterday. We talked about it, but it's good to highlight it all over again. Niger tanker explosion, death toll hits 42. Tanker explosion here again. Yesterday we talked about the impossibility of having committees to be able to conclude on what should be done to instances or incidences like these. And here we are, another explosion.
And this
keeps going on.
This time around, the government didn't even bother saying, well, let's set up any committee. The Minister of Information just released a statement commiserating with the people and government of Niger State and the families of the bereaved.
So a philosopher had said it, and this is sad news, but of course, I've got to a point where I've decided not to wish anybody to rest in peace when I know that they did not die in peace. But when a philosopher has said it, that when government wants to bury a matter, it sets up a committee. And that's why you see committee after committee. In fact, the committees with white paper, we can mention them. There's Confab in Nigeria, the paper is still there. There's a report that recommended the merger of some institutions of government. There are committees, and committees without white paper, there are committees with papers, and all of those things. And at the end of the day, it looks like a pastime and a way to find food for the boys, because those who sit in the committee at the end of the day will drink pure water. And they will
pop champagne.
They will drink pure water, and it's so sad. We should not trivialize issues like this. So when we are talking about priority, and I said it, that leadership is about 5 P's. Number 1 is the priority. And your priority is so important because it is your priority that will lead to the last 2. What's the last 2? It either leads to prosperity or poverty. That's how important priority is. When you talk about infrastructure, for instance, people think it's just about doing 1 kilometer of road and go there to tie a ribbon and you cut it at the end of the day, we shout hallelujah. No, it is strategic movement. And I've said it before that beyond oil, beyond agriculture, movement of people in a populated country is a worthwhile investment. I'm not expecting that as big as we are today, our major reliance would be on road transportation to move our crude, our fuel, or whatever it is that we move from one place to the other. There must be, and you were talking about some advanced economists.
Sorry, Doctor, let's take this caller. We'll come back to the movement of crude. Francis calls us from Uyo. Good morning, Francis. Like they say, I'm in Sierra.
The guest in the studio, honestly speaking, if you need a second wife, I would have given to you, because you are speaking, you're already speaking like a man who understands the issues. I have said ASU strike in Nigeria has become like part of the academic calendar. It has become part of the academic calendar. What do we want to do? How do we need to solve this problem? He talked about our politicians and the wages. ASU is saying, oh, because they are not good. I understand all of this. But you know the problem, like the guest have said, is a problem of the society. I want to collect 5,000 from a politician to vote him into power. And you know that to you it is 5,000. To the politician, he has not spent 5,000, and he has to recover the money when he gets into office. Then you now come and tell him to bring this. Please, Our society, we need to change our mentality. We. Let us even leave this 5% of politicians. I call them 5% out of the rest of us. Now, what do we do? When some of us who complain we don't have PVC, we don't belong to any party, we don't stay where decisions are made. When they make the decision and bring out anybody they bring out for us to vote, we only vote those who are already out. We are not there in the decision making. That's number one. Number two, our conscience to what we want, our conscience. I speak this because this country has turned into a very big religious country, but I don't know where the religiosity is taking us to. We are so concerned about things that we should not be concerned about. Let us go all out. Whoever is culpable, whoever has done something wrong, mention that person's name. Don't group them so that we can really understand where our problem is. Finally, before I go, I've always said this word. Nigerian politicians are surprised that we believe them, even when they don't believe themselves. We need to rise up and do the needful in this country.
The Nigerian politicians are surprised.
They believe us.
I don't know, see,
so they don't even need to play the edit. Yeah. And if your wife is watching, it would be nice for you to either accept or decline his offer.
I don't want to have that conversation.
Because of his intelligence.
I don't want to say that.
I don't even know where the idea came from.
I can't make a choice for the man.
No, he's proposing something. He appreciates you.
You were talking about moving of crude and all that.
And all of that.
So
when we talk about infrastructure is not to make political statement. It is to meet the need of the users. So we have to sit down and say, how many lives have we lost? This is insecurity. People don't know. What just happened, that tanker explosion, is part of insecurity. Yeah. Anything that takes the life of your people, and that's what the government signed for. So we must go back, and this will take us to the cost of contracting. Sometimes people will frown at it, but some of the projects we do, and I will not mention any particular one, some of the projects we do to cover, even in the last administration of, this has been a culture of government, but even in the last administration, some of the contracts we do to link this place to this place, by the time you compare the reality with what other people do elsewhere, you know that these things are just too expensive. Some of the things, if we are really serious and we want to pay attention to the priorities and make things done, we will know what to do. And that's why I've said it also repeatedly, that the will of government is more and is bigger, is more powerful than the wish to work. We may wish to work, but what's the will of government? Do they have the political will to cover all of this ground? So we want to send our condolences to the people that died, but of course we also want to remind the government that we will not continue to send condolences to the family of victims of situations that are avoidable.
All right.
Avoidable.
Let's look at another story very quickly this time. Let's move on to Leadership newspaper. Leadership has a lot for us to look into. At the top right corner, Kanu opens defense list. Kanu opens defense, lists Wike, Umahi, Buratai, others as witnesses. Oh, really? Okay. Lecturers suspend strike, give government 1 month to address demands. We've taken that story. 2027, Sanwo-Olu, Fashola, Ambode back Tinubu. That was done just 2 days ago, and that story is still in the news. New electoral chief, Abuja, assumes office today. And presidency must remain in South, says Northern Group. Okay, all right. I don't know if the other Northern Group will agree with that. 1999 Constitution is irredeemable, Agbakoba. I don't know if you saw the piece Agbakoba put out. It was trending as well on X yesterday. He did a write-up, I think about 4 pages or so, where he mentioned that Nigeria's 1999 Constitution is irredeemable. It will make a very good read. So maybe I'll try as much as possible, possibly send you the link as well, so you could take a look at that. It makes the front page of the Leadership. It's something everyone should read. And hopefully, if we can lay our hands on the legal luminary, I would look forward to have him on the show so we can discuss further on that. Niger tanker explosion. We've taken that. Federal government seeks $10 billion credit to address humanitarian challenges. Let's talk about that. We had the special advisor of the youth wing of the APC join us.
No, the APC youth leader.
Leader, I beg your pardon. I always find it hard to, with that statement, youth leader, youth.
It's the leader of the youth in APC.
Youth in APC, okay. He joined us, Dayo Israel, and one of the questions we had asked him here was, is giving out money to vulnerable youths or Nigerians, is that the solution to the problem? And he said, yes, it is. And we said, is that what is done in other climes? And we didn't have time to go into that. But what's your take on federal government seeking $10 billion credit to address humanitarian challenges? This $10 billion, where is it coming from? Are we going to borrow again?
I mean, and then we're running the risk of sinking into a debt trap and serious crisis, because we're spending so much already in servicing debt. And there you have it again. In just 2 years, Mr. President wants another loan to be given out to address humanitarian challenges.
Okay, so my study of economies that are doing well across board shows that at one point or the other, they actually have a portion like this, especially in a well-populated country like ours. There's always a portion for the vulnerable. The government will always make provision either by direct cash to them, making food available to them, or all of that. So that's part of economic growth, actually, in the real sense of it. But here's the complication of our own. Corruption is the complication of our own situation, to the extent that people now will now take the money. The first evil that always before the money is partisanship. That they will now begin to look at the direction of their party members. The second evil that always before this money is that this part of this money always escapes into private pocket. Always.
And now we can't even account for it. They're saying that's a big question. But they're saying you have to. They're saying you have to protect their identity. But
there's freedom of information.
Yeah, but they said nobody wants to appear in public or have their name saying
I doubt that.
You are protecting.
Okay, just mention on social media that you're giving out 4,000 naira. You see people come out on your chat.
So the problem really is not with the intention. The problem is with the execution of the intention. Because if this money truly, there are people in my community today that if you give them 1,000 naira, you have done a lot for them. In the real sense of it.
But we didn't teach them to fish.
No,
they will come back.
So
how sustainable is that?
No, so in a populated country like ours, there will always be that little percentage of people. There's nothing you can do about them. You can't teach them anything. There's that percentage. But the money we are allocating is not getting to that percentage. That is my own issue. See, in 2019, was it 2019 or 2017, I was forced to tweet at the then vice president. I said, in my community, I give out money to people then in my community. So I just identify them, the women in the community. This is the strategy. I met with them. We called it ROBIS, Rural Women Business Support Scheme. And I said, how many of you are doing daily contribution? And I saw them. So they had the capacity to contribute 500 per day at the level of daily contribution. I said, okay, if you have the capacity to contribute 500 naira per day, it means that you can still do a lot. So I will total the sum together. For those that were putting 1,000 naira into daily contribution, I give them 30,000 at the beginning of the month. All they need to do is to return that 30,000 by the end of the month. Then I mentor them through their businesses. And this thing was yielding result. So I had to tweet at the vice president and say, if at my corner I am doing this and it's yielding result, how come this trader money we are talking about, pastor, how come this trader money is not yielding result? It was after then that we got to know that even trader money is going to untrader people. So the problem we have is not with intention. The problem we have is with the execution of the process. And we can continue to say it until we can line up 10 people in each CDA, Community Development Association, Community Development Committee, and we say these 10 people are beneficiary of this direct cash transfer. People will not believe. And it's not the problem of people, it's what government has done over and over and over and over. That ministry, The way people look at it now, maybe people in power are not aware. The way people look at that ministry now,
the Ministry of Humanitarian
yes, it's they just think that it's just a pipe through which government officials actually siphon money. And I'm not saying we cannot redeem it. The policy, again, I have to lay emphasis, has been done elsewhere, and it has been successful. In a populated country like ours, we have people that we have to transfer money to unconditionally. We have those, but again, we must ensure that this process does not get back to riffraff, and the money does not go into the pocket of corrupt politicians.
Just looking at just 1 month ago, the monies that have been doled out, maybe we just need to do a comprehensive list. There are so many. Vice President Shetima ordered a speedy disbursement of 250 billion naira loan for smallholder farmers. Prior to that, we also heard that the federal government was also going to disburse a certain amount of money to Nigerians who are going through hardship and so on. And people are asking, how do you identify them? How did you select them? What's the criteria? Was there, as usual, a committee that was set up to look into these people? What are the processes? How do you identify? Because I don't know about you, Dr. John. Me, are they hungry?
So one of the other problems we have is that there's no sense of urgency in our governance process. For instance, the president, the most powerful person in Nigeria, can give order, and we can continue to drag our feet with the order. So most of those, especially I know about the Greek, that I think they are in the application process, but they will give order today. Before execution, it can take additional 1 year. That is why the East-West Road since 2006, I was still asking question whether I could risk it from Benin. If I fly to Benin, I could get somebody to drive me all the way from Port Harcourt. They advised me not to try it. East-West Road 2006, we keep dragging our feet. Even our own Ibadan Road now, you cannot travel to Ijebu-Ode. Ojude Oba is one of the most interesting festivals that you can talk about that can give us foreign earning. Before the death of TB Joshua, the gathering in his church was fetching us foreign exchange. So it means that if we can get all of these people to come into our country, the pressure we have on dollar will reduce. And Ojude Oba is an example of what we can use. But let me shock you, you cannot get there. That's not how you want to drive there. A pregnant woman uses that road, he will lose the pregnancy. Now, thank God they've started the reconstruction. But I hope that a sense of urgency will be attached to it to a point where we get this done. So again, it's about the corruption.
Why are we always slow about these things? For example, the federal government a few months ago launched with fanfare, President Tinubu distribute 2,000 tractors to boost farming. The tractors are yet to be distributed. And other agricultural equipment. The delay was attributed to the timing, and it's just you've bought the tractors, but because of bureaucracy and red tape, you haven't been able to distribute it. So and we're talking about food security
and these are the tractors that the president had mentioned in the October 1 broadcast of last year.
Yes.
It was last year he mentioned these tractors. If you recall, 2024, when he said they're going to give tractors to farmers for mechanized farming and so on. Till today.
Okay, so when the politician wants to talk now, he will blame the civil servants. And as a person who started out in the civil service setting, I can tell you that it is the leadership that sets the pace for development. And as we have now, we have political leaders who are supposed to set the pace of development. We sleep on things. There's no consequence for... Do you know that contractors come from their own countries? We give them contract here in Nigeria. Every contract has a timeline. In fact, in those days when you are traveling, you will see that this contract is for 12 months.
Yeah, they put the
board there. And after 12 months, there's no consequence. And it comes again to take another contract and abandons it. There's one particular road in the Ikorodu side of Lagos that I remember those years. That road took about 8 years. It's not up to 500 meters.
I really hope we step up and apply the sense of urgency, because when they're moving around, they use sirens. So I hope they apply that sense of urgency
that same speed
to governance and issues. Thank you so much, Dr. Ojo, for your time, as always.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
We now cross over to the Federal Capital Territory, where the Chartered Institute of Directors is holding its annual conference and would bring you live feed from the venue.
Must ensure continuity, stability, and growth. What are the key objectives? Leadership, continuity, stability, risk management. We heard in this hall yesterday from Mr. Solan that succession plan should be a risk for risk.